First off, I, I didn't open the video yet because I wanted people to see the thumbnail that he created for himself. So I'm like, okay, bravo, bravo. Karl Jobst with 1.09 million subscribers and 19,000 likes and almost 6,000 dislikes. Not a terrible ratio, but also not a good ratio. Clearly, there's still a lot of very unsatisfied viewers of his. And yeah, let's get into it.
On the 1st of April, I lost my lawsuit against Billy Mitchell, and the judge has ordered me to pay $350,000 in damages, plus interest. It goes without saying this is not the result I wanted or expected, and it's honestly quite shocking. Personally, I disagree with the judge's decision, and so I'm currently exploring any potential avenues for appeal. An appeal may stay the judgment on application until the appeal has concluded, which might result in several outcomes. The appeal could be dismissed and I would be ordered to pay the original judgment. The judgment amount may be lowered if the court finds it excessive, or the judgment may be overturned completely if the court finds errors of law have been made.
Okay, so the way he starts the video off, I actually have no issues with this at all. Whereas, like, the judge made a decision. I obviously disagree with that decision. That's fair. You're welcome to say that. He talks about what the next course of actions is. That's fair too. Before I continue with this, though, just a real quick check on Social Blade with Karl. Down 30,000 subscribers in the past 30 days. And that's a lot. That's a lot of people. I know people are like, oh, he has over 1 million subscribers. Yes, but you have to also take into account that 30,000 people unsubscribing from you in a 30-day period is a lot of active subscribers, like active viewers that are just done with you. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. But anyways.
This entire process can take up to a year or longer, so as it stands, this remains an ongoing battle, and it's not a battle I hope to give up easily. This has been very upsetting, but truthfully, losing a court case isn't the end of the world, even if it is to Billy Mitchell. It sucks, it's not what I wanted, I know it's not what many others wanted, but life will go on. Unfortunately for me, something else has happened that has been far more upsetting and far more difficult to deal with. Many people are upset and angry with me as they believe I have misled them and lied to them about the nature of the lawsuit. Some even go as far as saying that I intentionally lied to the public to scam people out of their money through my GoFundMe.
All right, so to be clear, Karl Jobst had a GoFundMe for the lawsuit, and it was called the Karl Jobst Legal Defense Fund, and that garnered over $200,000 dues. And in this, he says nothing specific about what he's actually being sued for. And a lot of people have extracted from this of, oh, it's the cheating allegations. It's not actually talking about what he lost with the lawsuit, what the lawsuit was all about, which was the Apollo Legend stuff and the statements of defamation about how Billy Mitchell was the guy that allegedly caused Apollo Legend to off himself. And that is what people are saying was very disingenuous. And I have to agree with that. When I read through this, I'm like, this doesn't really tell me what the lawsuit you're facing is. And I can say that with pretty good confidence because I am in a very similar situation where I am being sued by someone and I have a give, send, go. The difference being with my give, send, go is I poured my heart out there with what I understand the lawsuit to be about and why I feel like it's ridiculous, but I was as transparent and honest as possible with it. Whereas this, I feel like this is disingenuous. It says, my name's Karl Jobst. I'm a YouTuber who often reports on video game cheaters. Like right off the bat, that he's setting the table for what you think this lawsuit's about. Last year, Billy Mitchell, star of King of Kong and proven video game cheater, sued me for defamation claims, $450,000. In the past year alone, this lawsuit has cost me $200,000 to defend and will cost at least another $100,000 before it's over. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I read that, that sure as shit sounds like someone's getting sued for reporting on someone being a cheater. Does anyone read that differently? Because that's disingenuous right there. It just is. Like, I understand now after everything has happened where I'm like, oh, so this had to do with other stuff beforehand, but it wasn't actually what he moved forward with suing you. What he moved forward with suing you was the Apollo Legend stuff, but you didn't talk about that. So anyways, you can read this all on your own or pause the screen, but basically my point being is this doesn't get at the actual lawsuit itself. And pair that with what Karl Jobst just said here. Listen.
As they believe I have misled them and lied to them about the nature of the lawsuit. Some even go as far as saying that I intentionally lied to the public to scam people out of their money through my GoFundMe.
Okay, so, I mean, here's the thing. I don't want to be the guy that's just like railing on Karl Jobst to destroy him, but this is the facts. Like, that's why people feel like you're being disingenuous, because of what I just read, and contrast that with what you were sued for and lost for. And people could extract from that, hey, I thought you were being sued because you were talking about how he's a cheater, and all your videos talking about the cheater, the red joystick or whatever was switched out with the black one, and how this guy is not someone to be trusted, allegedly, all this other stuff. And that was what I personally was led to believe. I followed you, Karl, like very closely throughout all of this, and I trusted and believed that to be the case. So when I first saw the judge like come down pretty hard on you, which I still to this day feel like was way over the top for what the situation actually was, the more information I find out about it, the more I can rationalize where the judge was coming from. I still don't agree with it, to be fair. I think it's insane the amount of money that they just found Karl to owe Billy Mitchell in this case for what he did. But again, that's Australia for you. Yikes. My heart goes out to anyone in Australia with that kind of legal system. But at the same time, like, damn, bro, regardless of the things I agree with or disagree with when it comes to the financial impact on you, it doesn't change the fact that when I read your GoFundMe, that it sure as shit sounded like you were getting sued because you were reporting on being a cheater. And that's not what it was.
Mostly, people are upset because they believed the trial was about me accusing Billy Mitchell of cheating, but it turned out to be something else.
Mhm.
The backlash has been pretty brutal, and it's not something I'd like to happen again, so I think it's very important for me to be as honest and transparent as I possibly can.
I think it's interesting. Man, this is going to take me 10 hours to get through. I think it's interesting how he's like, oh, this is something I would not like to see happen again. Like, that's a very weird thing to say, almost like he hasn't hit rock bottom yet, because he's taking the approach of like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to come back from this fine. I don't want that to happen again. I'm like, bro, I think you're taking your million subscribers for granted right now. Like, this is something that's easy to do, and you'll bounce right back from this. Like, you don't with your viewers trust. That's like golden rule number one. And to be like, oopsie, sorry if there was some miscommunication there, guys, but hope that doesn't happen again. Like, what?
I'm going to go through the entire timeline as it happened so that you have as much information as possible. At certain points, I'm going to have to combat things that people have said about me that aren't true. But that doesn't mean I didn't also make mistakes and that there also aren't valid criticisms. I hope to address criticisms that I think are wrong and those that I think are right. And I apologize about the...
To be clear too, here's the frustration I have with this approach, is it almost sounds like he's using this video as a way to excuse the misnomers or miscommunication from that he created himself. No matter what he says in this video, this written here that is still up right now is very damning evidence against him. Like, very damning. You could be like, oh, I never actually said that, guys. I never actually misled you. You heard hearsay and rumors. Here's what I actually said in my video. And he'll play, I'm guessing, by the way, I could be wrong. He'll play a clip from like 20 seconds long where he actually explains what he's being sued for. That ends up being like 20 seconds in like a 28-minute video. And it's like towards the 80% into the video thing. And it's just like a quick clip and then goes right back to saying the cheating stuff. So sure, if you pull things out of context to make it be like, look, I told you what it was. It's on you for losing out on the information because you weren't paying attention. No, bro, it's on you. That's being disingenuous with your audience if that's what you do here, which I'm fully assuming he's going to. But again, I should let him talk first.
Generic Minecraft footage, but I just don't do well on camera. So this will...
I love a 1 million subscriber channel. Here's some generic Minecraft footage because I don't do well on camera. He doesn't seem to have a problem on camera when he's peddling cereal spoons and what's the other stuff he peddles? The toothpaste or whatever, the hair stuff. He's on camera for that. No issue when he's getting paid, but off camera because he doesn't feel comfortable when he's talking. Oh, okay.
We'll have to do. On the 26th of May, 2021.
Yeah, wait a second. This is the guy that was telling us how to meet women. He doesn't feel comfortable and confident on camera? Hold up.
I released a video titled "The Biggest Comment in Video Game History Strike Again." In that video, I discussed 2 new lawsuits that have been...
And here's the problem, by the way, too. Man, I'm never going to get through this. The problem with this is Karl is going to hand select and hand pick videos from what feels like probably 20 or 30, maybe more videos that he made. And Karl is going to handpick and nitpick the parts of those videos that he picks out. What if a viewer watched the other videos and didn't watch those videos and got the impression that was what they fell for and then read your GoFundMe? That's where the miscommunication is, which is why explaining yourself and blaming it on your viewers will never work.
Been filed by Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell. At the end of the video, I outlined all of the various lawsuits Billy Mitchell had filed against others. And when I came around to Billy's lawsuit against the YouTuber Apollo Legend, I said these words. He also sued YouTuber Apollo Legend for $1 million. I haven't spoken about this publicly, but this lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all of his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money. This left him deeply in debt, which required him to find extra work. But with his ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life. Not that Billy Mitchell would ever care, though. In fact, when Billy Mitchell thought Apollo died earlier, he expressed joy at the thought.
Okay, so this is that clip from 2021 where he's explaining it. But even if Karl thought this to be true at the time, the problem was he found out it wasn't, removed it from his video, and then put it back into the video after the fact. And it's like, bro, this is the part that you're being sued about. The audacity to keep going with this known lie is a problem.
The lawsuit against Apollo was just as frivolous as the rest, and Apollo definitely would have won in court, but again, he was extremely ill and couldn't handle the ongoing stress. This was inaccurate because the settlement terms did not involve Apollo Legend paying Billy any money, even though this claim did...
By the way, I love the verbiage he uses is very carefully chosen. Instead of saying the truth, which is, hey, I flat out lied to you guys, or I made something up, or I trusted a Reddit source. He says, this was inaccurate.
Turned out to be false. I believed it to be true at the time. I had been personally told there was a cash settlement, which numerous...
Okay, but that's the problem is like you run with hearsay is a concern. It's a concern. Again, I want to be clear about this. Do I think that Karl Jobst was in the wrong? Yes. Do I think that Karl Jobst got bent over by the Australian court systems and should not be owing as much as he does? Yes. Both things can be true.
Others said they were told as well, and this was also stated by multiple Reddit users, with one of them even claiming to have spoken with Apollo directly. Obviously, a Reddit post isn't usually...
I mean, here's the other thing too. He ran with a Reddit post and people that we're just telling them hearsay stuff as fact. Okay, not a great look for a channel that people look to for trusted factual information, but okay. The problem comes in is, what did you do when you found out that this was inaccurate? That's what the court was looking at.
Very credible, but this person made these comments and was talking about the settlement before the settlement was even public, which implied to me that they knew what they were talking about and it was trustworthy. And the idea that Apollo Legend may have paid Billy Mitchell a large sum of money was already out in the public. In a 2020 Easyscape video, he said this.
Like I mentioned at the start of the video, there's a good chance that Apollo had to pay Billy a large amount of money in the settlement. And
okay, this is how the game of telephone works. This guy starts with there's a good chance he had to, which, you know what, that could even be a fair thing to say based off the information he had. Yeah, there's a good, we don't know for sure, but there's a good chance he did. I don't see an issue with saying that. At least he qualified it.
Rumors online suggested it to be anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 if this is what happened.
The important,
it's a lot of ifs too. If, hearsay, like, yeah.
Distinction, however, is that Easyscape did not claim this as a fact, but rather that it was just.
But you did, Carl.
A good possibility. And I will need to point out that despite Easyscape thanking me in the description of this video, which people have then used to falsely claim that I went after Apollo Legend in some way, I had absolutely no input on anything he said regarding Apollo Legend, and I had no idea what he was going to say prior to the video's release. I had only simply provided him with some legal documents and information regarding the Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell lawsuits. And Easyscape proactively reached out to me and allowed me to post his statement confirming this was the case. With all of the corroborating evidence I had, I believed at that time that Apollo Legend did pay Billy Mitchell money in the settlement. And
again, understandable. Like, I think a court would look at that and be like, okay, we can see how you came to that conclusion. Is it the right thing to do? Probably not, but there is understandable information there. Okay, I could see. But when you found out, like when Billy contacted you or when facts came to you, like when you knew for sure it was wrong, what did you do?
This was not something that I merely fabricated or constructed myself. In Apollo Legend's goodbye video, which I won't replay here out of respect, he confirmed that he had health issues and that he had unpaid debts which he did not want to pass on to his estate. And he asked people to donate to his GoFundMe.
I also find that a little bit convenient, which I won't play here out of respect. I mean,
me because of this. As a fellow YouTuber, I also know how much money Apollo was making on his Billy videos, which was money that he would also stop making due to having to remove these videos from his channel. And of course, you don't need to be sued to realize that being sued is an extremely stressful thing. And especially,
I can actually vouch for that. It absolutely is. There are lots of sleepless nights, lots of stress, lots of frustration, lots of worries, lots of financial concerns with the family, lots of everything. So yes, I can definitely hear him on that one.
Especially now, after being sued myself, I can only say that you cannot imagine the stress this puts on you until it happens. Apollo himself, even,
which is hysterical because the person suing me is the one that's claiming to be the one that's dealing with all the stress, and I'm like, come on now, come on, you're not kidding anyone here.
Admitted this in a Discord message, and I can only assume that the other things he's referring to included his health issues. To be clear though, I never said Billy caused Apollo's suicide, nor have I ever believed that. No one is responsible for Apollo's decision other than Apollo. If you read my words carefully, I simply laid out a sequence of events that happened one after another. I said there was a lawsuit, Apollo settled, he was in debt, though I was incorrect about the cause of the debt, he needed extra work, and he had ongoing health issues. Then I said this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life.
I mean, this is revisionist history, because if it was just that smooth and fine, but first off, Billy would not be suing him. Let's be clear about that. Like, it was a lot more harsh than that. And this is kind of nitpicking all the nice things.
I deliberately used words like and but to connect these events. I didn't use use words like because or as a result of. I was also very careful to mention Apollo's pre-existing health issues as a major factor. When I said this was all too much, I was clearly referring to multiple things together: the debt, the extra work, and his health issues, all simply as existing, not as causative factors. I never stated that Mitchell's lawsuit caused or could have caused Apollo's death. Any connection someone might draw between the lawsuit and Apollo's passing goes beyond what I actually said. I was extremely careful, though obviously not careful enough, not to make that claim, because I know the difference between describing a sequence of events and assigning blame for a tragedy. I did, however, get one statement of fact wrong. And trust me, I learned that lesson immediately. Ever since this very video back in 2021, and because of the resulting lawsuit, I've always endeavored to be much more careful about what I say. And
Okay, that's fair. But again, if everything was as Karl says here, why did he get sued and why did he lose? And then you look at the information, when you listen to the judge's ruling, the judge is literally reading back like, oh, you found out that it was a lie, you pulled it out, then you put it back in. You were very what were the words? I don't remember the words. The judge, basically the impression the judge was getting across is like, you were very cocky about everything. And the judge is like, that was frowned upon with the way he was approaching it. He was very flippant and not caring about Billy's image. And that's the whole thing. It's like, he's acting like he was very careful the whole time, and he doesn't understand why he got sued and why he lost here, which is very strange. Arrogant, that's the word. Thank you, Sergeant Sapien. Arrogant.
And if I do say something factual, I always try to ensure that I have ample concrete evidence to support it. On the 4th of June, 2021,
Oh, there's Keem. Okay, so this is where he gets the fact.
Contacted by Keemstar, who on a call advised me that Billy was very unhappy with the comment I made regarding the settlement, and that it was false. In response to this, I removed that section and advised Keemstar to tell Billy that I had removed it and that I would make a retraction if Apollo's brother or Billy provides evidence that the claim was false. I then sent Apollo's brother an email explaining the situation and asked if he could confirm if my statement was incorrect. Several hours after I removed the statement from my video, Billy posted to his channel a response video. In it, he stated that my claim was wrong and that I was accusing him of murder.
May 26th, Jobs released a video downright loaded with false defamatory statements. The most heinous accusation related to Apollo's passing. In the video, Jobs outright states that I drove Apollo to suicide. In his words, he may as well have just said murder.
Several days later, I received a
Why is Karl not playing that clip, by the way?
just after they reinstated his fake world records. The concerns notice was ridiculous, as obviously Billy is a proven cheater and everyone knows this.
It's it's almost like when you say stuff like this, you shouldn't even make the video, especially if you're planning on appealing, because obviously they're going to review this video in your appeal. And you say that kind of stuff, they're going to be like, have you learned nothing, Karl?
And it falsely claimed that I implied he was a criminal because I suggested that he may have paid Guinness to reinstate his scores, even though paying Guinness to adjudicate world records is literally their business model. And during this time, Billy was suing multiple entities for telling the truth that he is a cheater. So there was no reason for me to believe that his second concerns notice regarding Apollo Legend was any more trustworthy, and I assumed it was completely bogus and an attempt to silence me, just like all of his other actions.
Okay, but even if that is the case, why would you not make sure to rectify the concern? Even if you don't think even if you think he's using that as a way to get you for other stuff, why would you just not say, all right, I was wrong about that. Let me correct that issue there. Like it's almost like I look at my own situation where like Alyssa is trying to sue me for allegedly saying things about her in a not ideal light. and how she might present herself to others. We'll just say, and I'm like, bro, I formed that opinion based off of your tweets. Like you proactively offered that information to the world. And now you're trying to say that people aren't supposed to be able to form opinions based off of what you say to them, which to me that's like entrapment. If that ever flies, that's insanity. Could you imagine if I said all this stuff that about me and then someone was like, oh, so you do that? And it's like, I'm suing you. You can't say that about me. Like, but you literally told people that.
A couple of days after I received Billy's concerns notice regarding Apollo Legend, I re-edited my video to add back in my claims regarding the settlement. Again, I believed them to be true, and my efforts to avoid legal action by taking...
Cool Centrist says, my main issue is unserious and unethical journalism by Karl. A real journalist would not just see something on Reddit and take it as fact, and no need for more research. I agree with that, but at the same time, I'm trying my best to give Karl the benefit of the doubt. Like as a YouTuber and all the information that all of us deal with, we try our best, but sometimes we mess up. I've made mistakes too. I'm not perfect, but we learn from those and try to be better. And from that perspective, I understand that. Did Karl fuck up with the whole Reddit thing? Absolutely. Yes, he did. He even says in this video that he learned from that and that was not a good idea. My greater concern is when he got that notice from Billy saying, hey, that shit you said, I'm going to sue you for it if you don't fix it. And Karl's like, I didn't take that seriously because of all the other allegations with cheating and XYZ and the other thing. I'm like, bro, take it seriously if they're saying that this is defamation and it's a proven lie that what you said in your video is false and you've been contacted by Keemstar clarifying and you remove it from your video. And then somehow, like, what is it, 10 days later, 14 days later, you re-edit your video and put it back into it? What are we doing?
Taking them down had failed. In the pinned comment of Billy's response video, he even said that removing the words or making a retraction would make no difference. Several days after I reinstated my claim, I received an email reply from a...
That was very smooth how Karl just said that. Several days after I reinstated my claim. Let's pause there because that is probably the most important part of whatever this video is, where he reinstated the claim. Why did you reinstate the claim if you knew it was false? Why did you do that? I think that's why the courts were so pissed at him, because it was like just almost like arrogance, sheer arrogance, where it's like, I'm Karl Jobst, I can do whatever I want. And it's Billy Mitchell, and the court of public opinion hates Billy, so I'll win because court of public opinion hates Billy. Like, again, I liken this to my lawsuit situation, where clearly the court of public opinion is not the biggest fan of Alyssa Mercante. I get that. But in reality, when you actually dive into what she's suing me for, the reality is, in my humble opinion, there's nothing there. So you can sue anybody for anything. That doesn't mean you'll be victorious on it. So in this case, I'd like to think this is different, but you never know what kind of judge you'd get, what kind of jury you'd get, what kind of thing is happening politically, the environment. Like you never know what happens, which is why I feel like Karl was a little too overconfident with his situation, where it's just like, this one's in the bag, guys. I'm like, let's not ever take that approach with a lawsuit.
Apollo Legend's brother. He confirmed that originally Billy had tried to get money from Apollo, but this greatly upset Apollo because he simply had no money to give. And ultimately, they adjusted the settlement, and in the final version, there was no money transferred. As soon as I received this email, I removed my claim from my video, and it has been gone ever since.
Wait, that's not what the judge said in the finding. The judge said that you removed it and brought it back. The judge said that.
After I removed the claim from my video, we responded to Billy's lawyers advising them that the segment was removed and that I would be issuing a retraction. Billy said this was not sufficient, and in the response from Billy's lawyer, they stated that proceedings were necessary. Despite this, I still planned on releasing a retraction, and in my video, The Greatest Feat in Video Game History, I included this segment at the end.
at the end. Real quick, by the way, guys, Dark Souls no hit, the greatest feat in video game speedrunning history. A video that has literally nothing at all to do with the Billy Mitchell, the lawsuits, the cheating, anything. A over half an hour video. And he has a statement, and the judge even called this out, where it was clearly buried at the end of a video that has nothing to do with anything. So anyone watching this video that has no idea who even Billy Mitchell even is going to tune out and be like, who cares about this? Like, you can't just bury that. If you actually cared about it, you can't bury that.
Included this segment at the end. Now, before I finish the video, I would like to take this opportunity to correct something that I said in a previous video. Back in May, I talked about the new lawsuits filed by Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell. In that video, I made the claim that Apollo Legend paid money to Billy Mitchell as part of their settlement. I would never make such a claim unless I had very good evidence to support my position. In response to this, Billy Mitchell released a video accusing me of lying and
again, Carl's very good evidence to support his position was a Reddit post. So again, we're just taking Carl's word here that it's very good sources. That's a massive issue for credibility. That's massive. And it's almost like Carl is telling on himself with this, and he doesn't even realize it.
claimed that no money was exchanged. He didn't provide any evidence to back up this claim, nor did he attempt to get in contact with me to clear up any misinformation I may have had.
He did send you a notice. I feel like that's attempting to get in touch with you and let you know what's wrong.
However, I did investigate further as I would never want to provide false information to my viewers. I reached out to a member of Apollo's family who graciously agreed to clarify some details. According to them, despite Mitchell's best efforts, Apollo Legend would not pay any money, and in the final version of the settlement, there was no clause indicating that he was required to do so. Therefore, the statement I made in that video was almost certainly incorrect.
Was almost certainly incorrect is the nicest way of saying I was very wrong, and I listened to a Reddit post and lied to everyone about it. It was almost certainly incorrect. Oh, the choice of words. I feel like Carl could be a games journalist with these word wizards that he's wielding. He's just throwing these wizard words around.
I sincerely apologize for providing false information.
Sergeant Sapien says, Carl, it's not my fault you didn't watch a 30-minute video to see a retraction I shoehorned in at the very end. And you can't help but think like a 30-plus minute video from Carl when most of his videos are what, 10, 12, not 10, but 12, 14, 18 minutes long, that he found the 30-minute video to be like, sure, I'll throw it at the end of the longest video I have.
And no matter what kind of relationship I have with Mitchell, I do not believe that it is ever justified to lie or mislead. Mitchell also claimed that I was accusing him of murder. This is certainly not the case. I do have my opinion regarding the impact of the settlement on Apollo's decision, but ultimately, it was no one's responsibility but his own. The only reason I mentioned it in that video was because I felt like it was important to let you know what happened, as I know many of you enjoyed his videos.
Why is Carl not playing the clip of what he said? And instead, this entire video, he's talking about what he said. I find that curious.
My standard of evidence has changed dramatically since I made this original claim, so of course, now I disagree with my statement that I had very good evidence. But I was just trying to say that I...
Okay. Why would you think you had very good evidence if none of that changed? You're either lying then or you're lying now. Like,
I didn't just make this up out of nowhere. And I didn't consider Billy's legal threat against me as him trying to get in contact with me, which is why I said that he didn't. After I released my retraction, my lawyers contacted Billy's lawyer to let them know, though we never heard back. I've heard a lot of people say that I never...
Wait, Peter Parker for 5 says, I like how Carl tried to throw you under the bus by calling your lies and a drama video. I have not gotten to that part. I heard that he talked about me in this video, so I'm very curious. I'm very curious.
never made a retraction or never attempted to correct the record or was trying to hide my retraction, and that if only I had just made a retraction, this entire thing would have been avoided. But that's just not the case. I wanted the retraction to get as many views as possible. I even said as much to my lawyers at the time. And ultimately,
I said as much to my lawyers at the time. I wanted to get as much traction as possible. You put it at the end of a 30-minute video.
it did. My retraction got far more views than the original video.
The original video received 500,000 views before the incorrect information was removed.
But it was clear from Billy, even before I made the retraction, that it wasn't going to affect his actions in any way. Then, in September 2021, Billy filed his lawsuit against me. Those are the events that led up to the lawsuit. But if the lawsuit was apparently just about my claim about the Apollo Legends settlement, then why did many people believe that it was about allegations of cheating?
Yes.
There are multiple reasons. And
Is he gonna start blaming other YouTubers for this now? I really hope that's not what he does. Cool Centrist says, in your longer video on your own channel, how many people stay around to watch the whole thing? It follows the same trajectory for pretty much every channel out there. When it comes to video views, it's pretty standard. Then the drop off is, it depends on the video itself, but there always is a drop off before the end of the video where it goes down to basically like 5% of the people are watching the last like 30 seconds. Like, it's wild how many people don't watch the entire video. It's wild. It constantly impresses me.
yes, I am one of them, but it wasn't just my YouTube audience who thought that. It was even news outlets. In fact, they were playing segments on national news about how Billy was suing me for cheating.
A bitter war of Donkey Kong has exploded with controversy.
Which, I mean, this is now an issue with this kind of stuff. I get where Carl's coming from on this, because it's like, this is not him. This is news reporting the wrong information. Where's the accountability for them? There is none.
Over a high score, making it all the way to a Queensland courtroom.
But again, no matter what the newsroom says, I'm going to point you back to Exhibit A here, where his legal defense fund says nothing about what he's actually being sued for, and he raised over $200,000 dues. All right. So you can say, oh, everyone else is saying the wrong thing, and oh, they're all doing this other stuff. But it's like, bro, you raised the money on not telling the full truth here.
An American video game champion is suing a Brisbane YouTuber over cheating claims.
And they didn't think that because I told them or because they watch my videos. They ran that story because of the arguments that were being made during the lawsuit and the nature of the pleadings. In Australian defamation, you must look at the entire publication. If I publish a video, Billy doesn't get to just extract a single paragraph and ignore everything else. In the video where I made those claims about the Apollo settlement, I also claimed that Billy was exposed for cheating. I claimed that he was banned for cheating. I said that he abuses the legal system to force people to acknowledge his video game scores. And
Again, none of this has anything to do with what he was actually suing him for. That's like, you need separate videos, bro. These are two different things coagulating into one.
I said that he expressed joy at the thought of Apollo Legends' death, because he did. I mean, I even showed in that same video text messages where Billy said he would try his hardest not to smile and giggle if Apollo Legend was actually dead. So,
Which, I mean, I'm with Carl on that. He's right there. I read that. I'm like, yeah, that looks like someone expressing joy. That's fair.
as part of Australian defamation law, there is a concept known as contextual truth, and this was one of my defenses. My defense states that because I made those other claims that both hurt Billy's reputation and were true, Billy was harmed anyway, and the words he complained of didn't harm him any more than the other.
But bro, like, this is why the court doesn't agree with that. And I actually side with the court on this one. You're conflating, oh, he's a cheater, for, oh, this guy is the guy that was the insinuated. I don't think Carl never played the clip here, so I don't know exactly what it was, but the court found Carl to allegedly insinuate that Carl said that Billy was part of the reason for Apollo Legend offing himself. Like that, we're mixing up a cheating allegation with that kind of stuff. I'm like, bro, these are two different worlds. These are two different worlds.
otherwise would have been.
Cool Centrist says, have you seen the leaked Discord messages about how he said if he won, he was going to make attack videos on Billy's son? Why it's okay to harass Billy's son? I have not seen those. I have not seen those. But if that's true, wow, yikes.
And in response to these other claims, Billy denied them all. He denied that he was exposed for cheating. He denied that he was banned by Twin Galaxies. He denied that he abuses the legal system. And he denied that he expressed joy at the thought of Apollo Legends' death. And because he denied those extra claims, the breadth of argument during the lawsuit expanded to include those as well. And the media evidently latched onto the cheating claims because Billy was denying those, and that was his main reputation. So on one hand, the reason Billy originally sued me
So now he's fine on camera back in the day, but now he's not okay during this. Interesting.
was because of Apollo Legend, but on the other hand, because he doesn't get to just isolate that one paragraph and ignore everything else in the video, the cheating allegations, along with other more serious claims, became involved. And ultimately, the judge did agree that those other claims were made and that they were substantially true, though in his opinion, they weren't more serious than the claim Billy was suing over, which
is why I just said I agree with the judge on that. Like, if you're going to be known as a cheater, it's one thing. If you're going to be known as a guy that caused the guy to off himself, that's a little bit different. I don't know. Maybe call me crazy.
which I personally don't agree with. In my personal opinion,
I disagree with Karl on this.
I think expressing joy over Apollo Legends' death is far worse than any implication that the eventual settlement of Billy's $1 million lawsuit against a young YouTuber who had major health issues and no money and who was just expressing the truth might have contributed in some way to his decision to end his life. After Billy filed his lawsuit, I released a video in September 2021 titled I'm Being Sued and Cancelled, where I announced that I was officially being sued.
Blackcatcher Production must have just come in late because, yeah, I was talking about that earlier, but yes.
In that video, I specifically state that I'm not going to talk about what the lawsuit was about. Normally, I'd give you a full breakdown of this kind of thing, but because this one involves me, I'm going to keep my cards a lot closer to my chest. What I will tell you is that I am being sued for defamation, and the amount of damages being sought is $450,000. I will definitely be giving you updates as we go, but I don't want to give out too many details or strategies before I use them in court. After this, I didn't talk about my lawsuit at all for over a year. And during this time, news outlets were posting articles about how Billy was suing me for cheating. Again, this wasn't because I said this. I wasn't even talking about my lawsuit at all. These articles were being written because reporters were reading the court documents where these issues were being argued. And I wasn't going to go out of my way to draw attention away from the cheating allegations either. Part of my defense was that Billy, more than anything else, has a reputation as a cheater. And when you think about Billy Mitchell, people don't think about that one.
Again, I want to be clear here, by the way. I do feel like ultimately Billy was in the right as far as being upset about the words that were said about calling him the guy that was potentially allegedly the cause of that. I get all that. But even with that being the case, I keep going back to this is egregious by the courts and finding the amount of damages. It's insane to me. It's insane. Like, it's almost like they're trying to make an example of Karl. And that's not fair to anyone.
Brief claim I made in a video in 2021 and then retracted. They just associate him with cheating and abusing the legal system. The fact that so many people didn't even know about the Apollo Legends settlement claim is evidence of that. Then in 2022, Billy sent me a third concerns notice because of a video I released in April regarding one of Billy's witnesses accusing him of extortion. And he followed that up with another lawsuit.
So what Karl is actually accidentally admitting here is like, I didn't talk about the lawsuit at all. Right. But he continued making videos about Billy talking about how he's a cheater without talking about the lawsuit, which can lead people to assume that he's talking about the things he's being sued for. That's the one qualification, the tiny little tidbit that Karl's leaving out of this, which is how people could feel misled.
of which he sent to my lawyers and told them he was going to file it against me. And then he sent me a fourth concerns notice saying he intended to sue me because I put a 10-second AVGN meme in a video completely unrelated to Billy. Billy was now threatening me with 3 simultaneous lawsuits.
See, that is egregious. And again, by the way, this is something that I feel like the court needs to take into account. Is if someone's just continually suing everybody, I feel like I know you need to like separate that and be like, let's look at each situation on its own, because but if someone is constantly just a serial suer, you got to start to wonder, like, maybe it's the person suing everyone. It's a little, again, this goes into the whole Australian court system, and I'm glad I don't live there, because yikes.
The first one had already cost $200,000 in the first.
James Rolfe over here like, oh shit, don't put me in these videos. I don't want anything to do with this. By the way, I met him at Game On Expo. He is a fucking legend. Like, one of the nicest dudes I've ever, like, as far as like a celebrity in my mind, like, so down to earth. Such an awesome guy. Got to chat with him for like 15 minutes with my son at dinner, and he's awesome.
Year alone. So if Billy filed the second and third lawsuits, there was no way I could afford to defend myself. I had Billy Mitchell, the guy who had already sued multiple people for exposing his cheating and who had already sued me once before, telling me he was going to sue me too.
And Javier makes a good point in the comments. He says there is a case precedent now. You live in Australia, talked about Disney or Ubisoft, you'll be done. Again, I take a step back, pull the lens back, and you wonder, was Karl really in the wrong here as much as they make it out to be, or were they trying to make an example of him for another reason? Again, going back to my lawsuit, where it's like, no matter how confident I feel, it's like you never know what the external situation is with stuff and how decisions get made. And sometimes they may not have anything to do with your case.
More times, and the reasons were insane. They were obvious abuses of the legal system. I felt I had no choice but to create a GoFundMe, and I advertised it in a video called Billy Mitchell Has Gone Insane and I Need Your Help. In that video, I clearly explain what is happening and why I'm creating the GoFundMe. Every single word I said in that video was true, and all of this...
You ever heard of lying by omission? Every single word I said in that video was true. I mean, damn, bro. What a pro-journo statement that is. I said everything true. You can't get me on anything. Everything I said is true. Yes, but leaving out key details is actually what causes people to think something that isn't a thing. That's actually lying by omission. That's the problem here.
Is explained in the video. I understand that this was...
Yeah, and Insanity Industries is right. Only one lawsuit was ever filed, which was extremely confusing. But I go back to Billy Mitchell on that one, being like, bro, like, how many C&Ds are you going to send to this guy, or whatever you call that letter?
Several years ago, so I don't blame anyone for not remembering the video or why I created the GoFundMe. But it wasn't in response to the first lawsuit that ultimately went to trial. It was because of Billy's constant legal threats against me, most of them having nothing to do with the Polo legend. This video got a lot of attention at the time. Even Moist Critical made a video about it.
Which, by the way, here's the thing. Like, this actually can make Karl look even worse, because now you have massive channels talking about it and dunking on Billy too. And if they're taking misinformation and running with it, that's why it's a problem.
Is one of the most baffling reasons for a lawsuit I think I've probably ever heard in general. Now, as I understand it, the second lawsuit hasn't been fully filed yet. Right now, it is still in the letter of intent stage, where they are intending to sue Karl and have sent him the documents to indicate such. But it looks like it is going to be...
And True North hits it right there. Karl mentioned in one small moment that he was a part of someone's death. It's Karl's fault for leaving what he said uploaded for at least a year.
Sent in the coming days.
And the GoFundMe raised
like,
100...
I can tell you guys, like, straight up, as a content creator, like, if there's something that I've said that turns out to be knowingly false, and I get contacted with a C&D from someone, I will take it down immediately. That's happened before. Like, Ubisoft contacted me with a C&D. It was like, please blur these things out. Please take this down. I was like, yeah, sure, we'll do. Not a problem. Like that happens more often than you know. The problem with this one is like Karl allegedly didn't do that. And that's where the issue was. So whatever else he says and all this stuff is kind of fluff, because what the court found him wrong in is the part that he's not really focusing on in this video.
50,000 Australian dollars immediately. If anyone came away from that video thinking that Billy was suing me for saying he cheated, it's because he had started the process for doing exactly that, on top of everything else. Ultimately, these extra actions never made it all the way to trial.
But that is as Karl, your responsibility as the person raising money to clarify that with people that are sending money to you so that they know what the money is going towards. Because if there is miscommunication or, oh, I said everything factual in this, but if you're leaving out, oh, but actually the real reason why I'm actually being sued is the stuff I said that was turned out to be false that I left up there and refused to take down, allegedly. Like, I think people would read that and be like, wait, this has nothing to do with the cheating. What is this lawsuit actually about? Oh, wait, you accuse this guy of what? Like that would change the perception of what people thought about Karl. And he didn't want his image to be tarnished. So instead, he's like, I'll leave out that factual information and just say the other factual information. And that way I look great. People give me money and I'll win this lawsuit. No worries. No problem.
But there was no way for me to know that at the time. And it was possibly even because of the success of the GoFundMe that Billy ended up backing down. People are now using the fact that Billy didn't go all the way through with his threats to say that the GoFundMe was a scam. But I was just responding to actions taken by Billy and protecting myself. And the money.
Again, that's being disingenuous. You're saying, oh, all I was doing was, and then say a generic statement. All I was doing was protecting myself. Bro, if people are going to give money to a cause, you need to tell them what the cause is and be as specific as possible and transparent as possible with it. I am like completely taken back when this turned out to be what it was, because I was like full on thinking it was the cheating stuff. Not because I never saw any of those news outlets that Karl was talking about. I never saw any of those other things that people are saying. I saw Karl's videos and I saw Karl's GoFundMe. So my mentality was 100% not influenced by anybody else except Karl. So he's trying to blame it on everything else out there. And I'm like, no, bro, I just watched your channel and I read your GoFundMe and I thought it was about cheating. Nowhere in any of this stuff did I get any kind of feeling that it was not about that.
Money was used exactly for the purposes that I said it would be, which was to help cover legal fees.
Cool Centrist says, Smash, if you were in Karl's position, how would you have handled things better? I would have been very transparent on the GoFundMe. I would have said, this is what the lawsuit is about. Billy, I would also say the other stuff he says there. I think the problem is he left out some vital information about what the actual lawsuit was, which misled people, especially when you pair that with the other videos he made talking about Billy's cheating along the way during the ongoing lawsuit. So you put that all together, it's like, bro, people have an idea of what it is, and that's not what it is because of what you've said. And I think you guys know exactly how I would handle it because I'm literally in the same situation right now, and I'm being as transparent as possible with every single iota of everything that I'm legally allowed to talk about. Like, there is other stuff that I could talk about, things that are out there right now in the courts that I theoretically could talk about, but my lawyer, Ron Coleman, says, no, do not talk about this. Do not recommend talking about this yet. Like, we need to wait on some things. So I am taking advice of his counsel on what I can say and what I can't say. But that's all I can do is be as transparent as possible with people. And this is why I take this whole situation so personally, is because I'm like, I looked up to Karl as a guy that was basically like me. And I'm like, bro, if anything, I watch this and I'm like, this makes me look bad because now people are going to start looking at me like, oh, what if Smash is not being transparent now? What if Smash is holding back some information? What What if this is going to be another Billy Mitchell situation over with Smash, which hopefully it doesn't turn into that. You never know what the court's going to do. But all I can do is within my powers being as transparent as possible with everything.
This narrative that this whole thing was only ever about Apollo Legend, which ironically is a narrative that started with Billy Mitchell, is completely false.
That's a really, in my humble opinion, a really bad thing to say in a video where you're planning on appealing, because when you watch the court and the judge's decision, they basically surround it all with that's what the court case was about. And then you contrast that with Karl being like, no, trust me, bro, that's not what it was about. Who are you going to trust?
And if that were the case, Billy would not have taken action against me on 4 separate occasions, with 3 of those having nothing to do with Apollo Legend.
Maybe he felt like you were not being very truthful about his cheating. Maybe he thought that you weren't being very truthful about the things you said about Apollo Legend. Maybe he was very frustrated because he was getting a lot of hate mail from people because of the things you were saying about him. And here's the wild thing. Could Karl Jobst counter sue Billy for this other stuff? I wonder.
That is why I never thought this whole thing was actually about Apollo Legend. I had been threatened and was dealing with so many actions from
Whoa, hold on. Whoa. Rewind that 10 seconds.
Billy that were related to cheating with Apollo Legend. That is why I never thought this whole thing was actually about Apollo Legend.
How much were you paying your lawyers, Karl, if your lawyers did not inform you what you're being sued about? Because you either have some of the worst lawyers I've ever heard of, or you're being disingenuous right now. Because what?
I had been threatened and was dealing with so many actions from Billy that were related to cheating that from my perspective, this Apollo Legend lawsuit was just Billy trying to capitalize on a mistake I made. But wrong or right, I was under the impression that Billy was suing me because they kept talking about his cheating and talking about him in a negative light in general. Otherwise, those other actions made no sense whatsoever. It was clear to me that his goal was just to silence me.
Dude, the thing he sued you about was not to silence you. Like if somebody accused me, put myself in Billy's position. Like first off, if there was another YouTuber out there that was, I guess go so far as say making up lies about me and telling his millions of followers and viewers that I had something to do with someone offing themselves, I would not feel very comfortable. I'd be like, that's not great, because there's a lot of unhinged people in this world. And if people get the hint that you're that type of person, man, I would not take well to that. I'll put it that way. So in a weird way, I can kind of understand where Billy was coming from with that. Kevin George says, choose your words carefully here, JT. I feel like everything I say these days is I'm on the witness stand, every word that comes out of my mouth.
Especially when it came to the Apollo Legend claim, as I had already removed the words and made a retraction. The only other time I mentioned...
But didn't he put it back in? Why is he not saying that part of it? The judge said that, if I recall correctly, by the way, because holy shit. Didn't he put it back in and that was kind of the problem?
The GoFundMe was at the end of a video I released in August of 2023, where ironically, I was responding to Billy saying that my GoFundMe was a scam. However, in this video, I allow Billy to fully explain why he is suing me, and I even say myself that the lawsuit relates to Apollo Legend.
Okay, but time went on, and eventually, without a single source, except a now deleted post on Reddit, now deleted post was his only source where he blamed me for taking the life of another human being and for what I did to him. And I said, that's it.
Billy Mitchell is referring to the YouTuber Apollo Legend, who tragically took his own life in December of 2020. I won't go into specifics about this particular point because it does relate to his ongoing lawsuit against me. Of course, I do pick apart a lot of Billy's lies.
Again, by the way, this is at the end of another one of his videos. Like, Carl likes to bury any of the actual important information at the very end of videos. It's curious. This is why most people didn't know about this stuff.
And I deny that I actually said Billy took Apollo Legend's life, because I didn't, but I was.
Well, of course you didn't say he took his life. Like, the whole lawsuit, from what I understand, was that you were implying that he had something to do with Apollo taking his own life.
Wasn't trying to hide the fact that the lawsuit was related to Apollo Legend. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even made this video or say directly that it was.
This, again, at the end of that 24-minute video.
And of course, I do also say that the allegations of cheating are relevant because they were being argued as well. After I promoted the GoFundMe in this video, it quickly reached $200,000, at which time I closed it and stopped accepting donations, which was almost a year before we went to trial. So throughout 2024, as I began talking about the trial,
I wonder why he closed it, by the way. I wonder if it was because he felt like that was a sufficient amount, or if he felt like it was getting kind of out of control and he knew he wasn't being totally transparent with what the money was for. I wonder.
more and more, the GoFundMe was already closed and I wasn't accepting money from the public. I have seen people point to the description of the GoFundMe and say that it didn't provide enough information or exact details about what the lawsuits and threats were about, and in that regard, I totally understand if people think that was bad practice or an issue. I can only apologize and say that I didn't give the description much thought,
which is insane to me, because speaking as someone that created their own Give, Send, Go campaign, I put a tremendous amount of thought and effort into that. I knew how important that was. That was a moment in my life where I'm like, okay, I get one shot at this to let people know what's happening. I do not believe Carl when he says I didn't give it much thought. I personally, as someone who's dealt with this, I do not believe him. I feel like he went actively to be deceiving in it, proactively.
I said, I only mentioned or linked to the GoFundMe in 2 videos outlining things in much more detail, which I assumed people had already watched. Though if I knew the description should have included everything, I would have absolutely no problem doing just that. The fact that so many people got upset or felt misled after the judge's decision and I lost the lawsuit came as a huge shock to me. There was a lot of reporting being done around the time of the trial, and no backlash occurred then, when it was also very clear what the trial was about. And I've had many people tell me they always knew exactly what the...
To the people who are saying you felt misled, did you follow the trial at all? He never claimed it was about Billy cheating in video games. It was always no. Oh my God. Like people have the time to sit in courtrooms, guys. Like people are trusting your word as your YouTuber that you will disseminate the information transparently and give the whole story to them. That's the problem here. It's not, oh, it's your fault for not following the lawsuit closely. Like, what?
The lawsuit was about, and they don't feel misled. So it would be very easy for me just to claim that people are only upset because I lost and Billy won, which is not the outcome everyone wanted. But I don't think...
No, it's the outcome that you told everyone to expect. That's why people felt misled, because you basically were saying this was in the bag. It was very like you felt like there was no way you could lose this. That's the vibe that I got.
That's entirely true either. I never said that Billy Mitchell sued me for cheating. But
again, you could sum this video up with lies by omission. That's literally the summary of this video, is Carl lies by omission. I never actually said that. What I actually said was, and it all was factual stuff.
I also did not repeat or draw attention to the original claim that got me in trouble, nor did I constantly remind people that the lawsuit related to Apollo Legend.
I don't want you to constantly remind people. I feel like you need to be transparent about it with your GoFundMe, with your video, instead of saying you're getting sued and then not talking about it purposefully for a year, but then continuing to make videos about him for other things, implying that this person is suing you for cheating, is a situation caused by you because of lying by omission.
Not because I was trying to scam anybody or mislead people, but because I
No,
believe
I don't think he was trying to scam people. I think it was more of just an ego trip. Like he just felt like he was going to be right no matter what.
it would have been detrimental to my case. I was very happy to talk publicly about Billy threatening to sue me for calling him a cheater, and to go into detail about how much of a cheater he is, because all of that is true. Despite the fact that he had threatened me multiple times for calling him a cheater, I was not afraid to continue making that claim. And I was happy to
Right.
discuss his cheating, even when it related to my currently ongoing lawsuit, because it was one of my defenses. When it came to Apollo Legend, this was a different story. I made a claim that included information that was not true. I didn't accuse Billy of murdering Apollo or causing his death, so I don't think I should have lost the lawsuit. But at the end of the day, I said something that was not accurate, which
again, I go back to, as much as I feel like Karl may have not been totally transparent or may have been lying by omission quite a bit and been quite the ego trip. I look at the situation still. The court completely destroyed Karl. Like, it was egregious, in my opinion, how aggressive the court was against Karl. Like almost like they're trying to make a what's the word? Make a situation of this. I don't know.
admitted to and corrected years ago. And I
Karl
was
was reckless. Yeah, that was basically it. An example of, thank you, Nine Tails. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Making an example of him. And that's what I have an issue with.
never going to repeat it because the internet doesn't work like we want it to work. If I drew more attention to Billy's claims about what I said, more people would have repeated it and it would have been used against me in court. For example, Billy's team crawled through.
But again, like, you didn't have an issue continuing to make videos about him with the cheating. So what are we doing here? Like, you're like, oh, I could talk about the lawsuit, but then they'd crawl through all that. So I'll talk about the other stuff with him that he's not suing me for, and then imply that's what's being sued for.
Through thousands and thousands of comments on Too Moist critical videos about Billy Mitchell.
Karl didn't have the balls to say your name out loud. Smash JT, the one that can't be named.
Which were released years after my video. They found a handful of comments that related to Apollo Legend, and then without any causal link, claimed that they were a direct result of my video. Even though there was no mention of me or my channel, and we don't know who these people are or why they are making these comments, the judge ruled that I'm responsible. Essentially, it didn't seem to matter if people may have come to this conclusion independently, and it didn't.
Mr. White is Moist critical?
Didn't seem to matter if there was no evidence linking their conclusion to my original video. The blame for every single comment was entirely placed upon me. The judge even flat out stated that no comments of this nature were ever made before my video. And not only is this one of the reasons the damages might have been so high, but it seemed to be used as proof that every comment was because of my original video. But I disagree with this statement, as there were plenty of comments well before my video ever came out saying that Billy was responsible. So you can see how dangerous even mentioning Apollo Legend would have been. That was my reasoning for not repeating.
Which, again, by the way, I side with Karl on this, where I'm like, I feel like the court was very egregious to make an example out of Karl here, where I genuinely don't think, if Karl was in America, I don't think that it would have gone down the same way. I genuinely feel like this is just an Australian thing.
Bringing up Apollo Legend. though evidently my behavior of talking about the lawsuit so many times without reminding people explicitly what it was about led to many people being confused. And if you're one of those people, I sincerely apologize. I just hope that you can consider that it was not done intentionally to mislead you or for nefarious purposes. I also made the mistake of reposting news articles covering my lawsuit, because all of the reporting that was done before the trial focused on the cheating allegations, and that wasn't the full story. As I said before, I had so many threats regarding the cheating allegations that I believed Billy's true motivations were to shut me up about the cheating videos. And the lawsuit did actually involve Billy denying those cheating allegations ever happened. However, I should have made it more clear that the lawsuit wasn't mainly about cheating.
Which, by the way, this is like I'm learning this about Karl in real time right now. We're getting to an actual tangible apology 27 minutes into a 32-minute video. Like everything else in this video is just like making excuses and everything. Now he's like, here's where I actually misled you guys. Which, I mean, at least he gets to it, but damn.
I just didn't know how to do that without jeopardizing my defense. And I also carelessly assumed most people already knew what the lawsuit was about anyway, because I had said it in one of my videos.
I said it in one of my videos, dude. You said it in a 1.5-minute snippet at the end of a 25-minute video. Why would you assume everyone knows what it's about? You never made a dedicated video and pointed to that.
If I truly understood the impact my actions would later have on people, I would have been much more careful. Obviously, in
No,
hindsight,
I think it's more he was cocky and assumed he was going to win, so he didn't need to worry about any of that. He lost, so now he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I should have been more forthcoming and given more information to you guys. I feel like, ironically, you know how they say like losing can build character? I feel like this is one of those situations where I almost feel like hopefully Karl gets humbled by this, even though I disagree with how harsh the court was with him. I still feel like he needs to be a little bit humbled by this because of the way he was going about everything, the hardcore ego trip that he was on. Hopefully this brings him back down to earth, but I don't know. With some people, it's just they just are who they are.
it may have been better to not talk about the lawsuit at all, but I'm not sure if that was ever going to happen. It's just not in my nature, and this was the biggest thing impacting my life and this channel for multiple years, so of course I felt compelled to talk about it. I should have just found a way to be more transparent if I were to discuss it, and I can understand fully if you are disappointed in my actions, especially if you donated to the GoFundMe. If you weren't really following the trial closely and don't have much information about what happened during it, and all you're currently reading is news about the judgment or drama videos saying that I lied about everything, I'd say
Represent. Make sure to like and subscribe. But hold on. Let's pause this for a second, though. Let's pause this. Because here's the thing, Karl. Here's the thing. This is what you were doing to Billy for 4+ years, dude. I make one video saying, hey, I let me pull the Karl here. Let me pull the Karl. I never lied in my video. I never lied. Everything I said was talking about what the judge's decision and what the judge said factually based off of the evidence that was provided there. Everything I said in that video, as far as I understand, was truthful. So salty, Karl? Like, Lindsay I says, Smash AT, hello, you absolute smashers. Oh my God. Like, you just show a thumbnail and cry about me. Like, watch the video. Oh, by the way, after this video, people started coming to that video and liking the video. They're like, oh shit. Like, I'm getting a lot of positive comments on that video. I don't know if Karl realizes, but by complaining and crying about me, people are frustrated at Karl, and he sends them over to me, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's based as fuck. Let me subscribe to him." Come on, man.
Suggest remaining skeptical for the time being. I will
Hold on,
wait
let's see
until
what he says
all you're
completely.
currently reading is news about the judgment or drama videos saying that I lied about everything. I'd suggest remaining skeptical for the time being.
I mean, literally, this is literally what Karl does in his videos.
Currently reading is news about the judgment or drama video.
This is literally a thumbnail from Karl Jobst style. Like, go look at his channel thumbnails. He has to understand the game. Come on, Karl. Come on, man. What is this?
Videos saying that I lied about everything. I'd suggest remaining skeptical for the time being. I will wait until the dust settles before discussing what happened during trial in more detail, but at some point I definitely will.
Javier says sue Karl for defamation. Oh, that's amazing. that is one of the funniest things I've ever read.
And hopefully at that point, you will have a better understanding about why I was so confident I would win. And it's also possible that you might even agree that this judgment is simply crazy once you have all of the details. I will say,
Which, again, I go back to, I am on Karl's side when it comes to how insane the judgment was. I am with him on that. Like, dude, as much as I feel like you were disingenuous and not fully transparent with everything with your audience and how I genuinely feel like you purposefully misled people based off of the information that I see and what the judge said the court case was about. With that all being said, I still think that the judgment was insane against you. I do. Like, both things can be true.
one thing, though, the judge found Billy Mitchell to be a credible witness and essentially accepted his full oral testimony as fact, despite our many attempts
Again, Australian court system. Yikes.
to show that Billy is a liar. For example, we have Billy on video in 2023 during his Twin Galaxies deposition saying that the effect I've had on him is minimal.
Did the actions that Karl Jobst and David Race and Jeremy Young and Jeff Harris take also cause you emotional distress?
That is minimal compared to this,
Why?
because this is where it all began.
However, during my trial, he claimed the exact opposite. And
See, again, when I hear that and I look at the judgment, I can't help but think that they were making an example of Karl. Like, this is a lawsuit that I would say should get thrown out. This is one of those, both parties are wrong. We're not going to try to decide in favor of one or the other. Like, both of you are, it's a complete shit show. Like, what are we doing here? But hey, these are just my thoughts.
said that I basically ruined his life. And the judge completely disregarded his previous statements and accepted what he said at my trial at face value. And this is just one example of many times that this happened. And if you've watched any of my videos on Billy Mitchell in the past, especially those in regards to his deposition, you will start to realize that this judgment might not be based on truthful evidence. But again, I won't.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm still stuck on, hold on. I need more wine. I'm still stuck on, why is it always me, by the way? What is it with me? I saw tens, if not hundreds, of videos come out about the fallout from this court case with some wild headlines and wild thumbnails. Why, of all of those, did he pick me? That's just, why? Why me, Karl? Why me? It's interesting. It's always me.
Won't go into much detail until the very end. There are so many lies being spread right now that it's insane. I think
Keegan nailed it right there. Big enough to be noticed, small enough to pick on. Yep. That's
understand people making fun of me because I lost and because of how cocky I was, and I can understand if people are upset because I wasn't transparent enough and they had the wrong idea about the lawsuit, and I can appreciate people are angry because I lost. I made a ton of mistakes, and I am a great example of what not to do when you're being sued. And ultimately, I am the one that will also need to pay the biggest price. In certain areas, I'm just an idiot, and I have a habit of saying things that rub people the wrong way. Of course, if I could go back and do things differently, I would. But some other things people are saying about me are just crazy and appear to me to be completely in bad faith. Like, people are spreading this screenshot long after the trial had finished and using it to try and claim that I used AI in my defense or as part of my strategy, when all this is me and some friends having some fun and seeing what AI would say.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that people have shared with me from Carl's Discord. Some things that he's said. I didn't see the one about the suing or going after or making videos on Billy's kid or whatever. I didn't see any of that, but I saw some of the other ones.
Many people are taking advantage of the worst experience of my life to go after me for things that are just outrageous. And it sucks because on one hand, I want to defend myself, but on the other hand, I totally agree that I made a lot of mistakes. I said things publicly I shouldn't have said that made me look bad. So I do deserve to be called out for those things. But other things are just...
But again, I will be defending Carl till the end of time when it comes to people should have a right to be able to say what's on their mind about stuff. Like, I always come back to, what are we doing? We're living in a world where you can't just say things. It's like, oh, I need to be careful. I can't say this. I can't say that, or this or that, the other thing, because I could offend someone or hurt someone or somehow defame them. It's like, bro, grow the fuck up, man. What is with everyone? You can't even talk anymore. Everyone wants to sue everyone into the ground so nobody can even talk. It's wild.
Flat out wrong or just complete lies. And if I spend too much time debunking lies, it will come across as if I think I bear no responsibility for what happened, which is not the case. So I won't. I'll just say that I hope reasonable people can understand that out of context screenshots may not be indicative of what is really going on or how I really feel. This experience has been extremely painful. However, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's been a huge wake-up call, and there are many lessons for me to learn. So assuming I do adequate self-reflection and I grow from this, I think it will ultimately be good for this channel. I'm more motivated than ever to move on and focus on producing good content and keeping myself out of trouble. So if you never really cared about this Billy Mitchell stuff and just want to watch some entertaining YouTube videos on cheating and speedrunning, this will be great news for you. Thank you so much to everyone who has supported me for the past few years. I can assure you that you have made this process much easier than it would have been, not only for me, but for my family as well. And I'm truly sorry to everyone I let down by not handling this as well as I could have. Thanks for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I do hope that I get to see you in the next video.
So, before I even give my final takes on this, I want to throw out the question to you guys. How do you feel about Karl moving forward? I know a bit more about Karl than the average person, but at the same time, I don't know a ton about him. I feel like most people just know surface level with Karl. Karl is an excellent YouTuber. He makes excellent content, very engaging and interesting. And he's someone that, as a content creator, I would recommend people to watch, to look up to on how to make a interesting, well-edited and engaging video. He does a really good job with that. At the same time, I look at him as someone who lets his ego get in the way of him. He sometimes thinks he's more important than everyone else, and that can trip him up. This situation, I'd like to think, will make him take a gigantic step back, reevaluate how he approaches things, and be a lot more humbled. But at the same time, I look at the court ruling, and I'm like, it's an insane ruling. And I keep going back to both things can be true. Where Karl was on a ego trip and very what's the word? Aggressive with pushing forward. But at the same time, like, I feel like he ultimately was his own undoing. And I'm very curious about the follow-up to this, if he is going to be pursuing an appeal with it and what happens with that. But it was an insane amount of money. That's a, like, think about that for a second. We're talking, what is it, was it near $500,000 USD after all is said and done, after court fees and everything? Or was it like 300,000? It's $500,000 dues, and it's like 300,000 USD, something like that, which is a disgusting amount of money for a statement on a video. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? That's insane. If that's going to be the precedent for that kind of thing, you're going to silence every YouTuber and bankrupt anybody that opens their mouth. You can't live in a world like that. It's insane. So as much as I want to, like I said, as much as I want to hammer Karl for the approach he took, I can't back the decisions by the court. That was wild. That was wild. Again, not to sound like both parties are wrong. I don't want to be that guy because I hate when people do that. But this is one of those legal situations where you look at all the information and you're like, yeah, no, we're not even going to hear this case. Just throw it out. Like, this is, what are we doing here? Unless there's an agenda to be pushed that can be furthered by having a verdict in this case, which is unfortunately where I think Karl found himself. Peter Parker for the 5-bagger. I like how Karl tried to throw you under the bus by calling your lies and a drama video. Yep. I think that was interesting. That was interesting. Where he's like, hey guys, listen to me, not this guy. like, bro, what do I have to do with your wrongdoings here? Like, damn, try to drag Smash JT into this shit. I mean, I will say it is an honor to be linked with AVGN, Moist Critical, Billy Mitchell, all in the same video. I am appearing in that one with them. I'm like, damn, look at this. Look at me. Look at me. Like his friend Muda. Exactly. Sergeant Sapien for the 10-bagger says, I don't believe for a second Karl was so obtuse. He had no way of knowing that talking about the cheating was going to make his audience assume the lawsuit was about the cheating. That's what he would like you to believe from watching that video. And again, that is really, really hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. That's a bro. Come on now. Come on. Like, that's one of those be honest with us. Don't give us lip service kind of things. Peter Parker for the 10-bagger says, I disagree. In the judge's verdict, he stated that Karl had every opportunity to retract after being contacted by Keem and Billy's lawyer about Apollo, and he still kept it up to provoke Billy. Agreed. As far as I understand, I mean, it's probably down now after the lawsuit, but as far as I understand, and if someone could correct me, I'm all ears for it, that was what the problem was. And we covered that in the video when I watched Diorio talk to Keemstar, when Keemstar was like, yeah, I told him that that's wrong information. He needs to take it down. And he took it down and then he put it back up. And Keemstar was confused. He's like, why is it back up? You need to delete that. So, yeah. True North for the 5-bagger says, but why? Billy cheated 30 years ago. But now in 2021, you're trying to attack someone for what? That's true. It's very true. It's almost like he had an axe to grind with Billy and was not going to stop. That was interesting. Sergeant Sapient for the 5-bagger says, not a fan of being used as an example, but his behavior was egregious enough to justify the verdict. I would agree with that, with the stipulation of, yes, I agree that it was egregious enough to justify the verdict, but how much was levied against him after the verdict was decided was where I would draw a line on. Again, going back to, this case should not have even been heard. I firmly believe that. Mark Smith, member for 1 year. Damn, time goes by, doesn't it, my guy? Shout out to you, man. Mark says, I find his other non-court case videos informative and entertaining. If a video of his pops up that I'm interested in, I will watch it. I'll be honest, full disclosure, looking at the survey right now, looks like, damn, almost 70% say they are not going to be watching Karl moving forward. That's a lot of people. Although some people might never have watched him in the first place. But 70% is more than I expected. Because I have that same opinion as Mark right here, where I'm like, yeah, if there's a video that pops up that looks interesting, I'll watch it. I mean, you can't tell me if Carl comes out with a completionist video, you're not going to watch it. I mean, come on. There's videos that Carl will make that I'm going to watch no matter what. Even if he showcases my drama video and just brings it down to just calling it drama. Could you imagine, by the way, the shit? I'm still not over this, if you can't tell. The shit that Karl Jobst throws out there, and then has the audacity to call my videos drama. What are we doing here? Again, there I am saying it. What are we doing here? Carl working with other people. Like, Carl had worked with me in the past, if you want to even say that. Like, he's messaged me in the past with information about the completionist, where he's like, I'm not going to make a video on this, but you feel welcome to. And he shared some information about the website being scrubbed. And I made a video on that. And I would not have been able to do that without Carl. And he was very kind to me, and I'll never forget that. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to just withhold my feelings on a situation because somebody was nice to me in the past. Like, if there's a situation where someone fucks up, I'm going to be like, hey, kind of fucked up here. Like, if you don't take well to that, I think that says more about you than me, but it is what it is. Where were we? We got Sergeant Sapient for the 2 says, all this over Monkey Game. Oh, I was thinking Black Myth. You mean Donkey Kong.